King Lear gives the sense of being an immense play. There is an apocalyptic timelessness to its setting. As a staging challenge, it has a number of big scenes and 11 characters who have over 100 lines. Some commentators have called it too big for the stage. I don't agree, as I saw an exquisite production at Stratford, Ontario with Christopher Plummer as Lear. It was taken to Broadway, but was made up of an all-star cast. Nevertheless, Plummer was in superb physical shape. Lear claims to be over 80 years old, and the part is physically demanding, including the necessity of carrying another actor somehow. And of course, this presents another casting and staging problem. Lear contains innumerable issues for us to discuss, but I'd like to tease you with a few here so you're thinking about them at the beginning of our study of the play. One of the issues concerns which version of the play that our editors should use. That sounds strange, but a pocket-sized quarto version was published in 1608, perhaps 3 years after it was first performed, while Shakespeare was still alive. It seems to have challenged the typesetters at the print shop as it contains innumerable obvious errors. Was the manuscript blotted and unreadable? They set much of the poetry as prose. A second quarto was published in 1609 that corrected many errors and added a few new ones. Finally, the play appeared in the famous First Folio collection of Shakespeare's plays compiled by his actor friends 7 years after his death in 1623, which seems more or less based on the second quarto. The issue is largely academic, but a challenge for scholars. There are literally hundreds of minor differences among the three versions. Which version is more authentic? Did Shakespeare change the play for performance through the years? You can read what the Folger editors decided to do in an introduction to this text, which it starts on Roman numerals 52 of the text. King Lear is Shakespeare's only play with a subplot. A quick search on Google shows there are numerous comparison essays for sale to high school students, and we will discuss many points of comparison throughout our discussion. Obviously, both fathers have trouble with children, but there are also clear and interesting differences in the plot. Act 1 gives Edmund some grounds for his hatred for his father, Gloucester, while the reason for Regan's and Goneril's resentful relationship with Lear is unspoken. And I find the good children, Cordelia and Edgar, fascinating as well. Too often they are played as boringly virtuous. I disagree, as I think a close look reveals that even the good children contribute to the agony and tragedy of this play. While Edgar remains in England disguised, Cordelia leaves for France. Correspondingly, at this point, the fool enters the play. Some commenters have noted the possibility that the same actor doubled the parts of Cordelia and the fool. At a symbolic level, this is compelling because Cordelia speaks the stark truth to Lear. When she leaves, the fool speaks the truth in riddles. He mysteriously exits the play before she returns, so they are never on stage at the same time. We see doubling, of course, even in our school plays when actors play different minor roles. Shakespeare's company had some 17 or 18 actors, so all plays required doubling or tripling. Richard III has 53 roles. Like professional companies today, Shakespeare no doubt planned out doubling carefully in order to save money and keep production costs down. It is a mild coincidence that 3 of our plays this semester have fools as characters, but Shakespeare includes them in many plays as they still served in English courts during his lifetime. Sometimes They were called licensed fools, as they had license to insult anyone. They provided music, storytelling, juggling, physical comedy. King James employed a jester who was eventually thrown out of the king's employment when he overreached himself and insulted too many influential people. And of course, Lear's fool is threatened as well. Let's talk about the sources for the story. The Lear story has been around for a long time before Shakespeare. The pseudo-history of his time claimed the Lear dynasty occurred during the 8th century BC. That would be during the Roman occupation of Britain. Shakespeare often drew on Holinshed's Chronicles, which mentions the Lear story, but he would have also had access to several other variations of the story. It is clear, however, that Shakespeare relied chiefly on a play called King Lear, fully titled The True Chronicle History of King Lear and His Three Daughters, Goneril, Regan, and Cordelia. The play was performed roughly 20 years before Shakespeare and was available in published form for him. It provides a main story outline and even some vocabulary that seeps into Shakespeare's play. The Gloucester subplot came from completely other stories. Though some companies shy away from Shakespeare's Lear because of its challenges, recent movie versions of the play are available starring the magnificent English actors like Ian McKellen, Sir Laurence Olivier, and Ian Holm. For your final paper, you might want to view them or one of many works where the Lear story forms an integral part of the plot. I'll mention 3 of my favorites. Some of you are familiar with The Throne of Blood by Akira Kurosawa. This is an adaptation of Macbeth. Kurosawa made a truly epic movie, however, based on King Lear. It's called Ran, which is Japanese for chaos. A Pulitzer Prize-winning novel by American author Jane Smiley is loosely based on Lear. For example, some of the names of the main characters in the novel are reminiscent of their Shakespearean counterparts. Larry is Lear, Ginny is Goneril, Rose, Regan, and Caroline, Cordelia. The novel contains several common themes with Lear, such as family, the force of the natural world, and madness. I can also recommend 2 wonderful video versions of a popular play called The Dresser. It's about an old actor who is losing his mind while barnstorming the English countryside in a one-man version of King Lear. The 1983 film stars Tom Courtenay and Albert Finney, who were both nominated for Oscars. The story was remade for a 2015 television special on BBC starring Ian McKellen and Anthony Hopkins. Both versions are worth seeing. I've given you a treasure hunt activity to complete after this recording. I hope you enjoy it, and of course I'm looking forward to talking about all these things and more about King Lear. Thanks for listening.